You've heard me talk about the wonderful Tuner Caddy product. Now introducing the Tuner Caddy Tuner TCT60M. Is a chromatic tuner that transposes for instruments in F, C, B flat, and E flat. Has a 6-foot clip-on microphone so they can tune from their seat, a built-in metronome to keep your tempos honest, and a bright, easy-to-read display so even the trumpet section can't miss it. Pair it with the Tuner Caddy and you have the Tuner Caddy system, a place for everything and everything in its place. Excelsior Music Publishing is proud to sponsor the Growing Band Director podcast with a roster of imaginative composers, including composers who have been featured on this podcast, such as Carol Britton Chambers, Laura Estes, and Tyler Arcari. Excelsior Music Publishing provides new music for concert band, jazz ensemble, solo and ensemble, as well as books and resources for all levels and occasions, including a large and festive selection of music for your fall, holiday, and Christmas concerts. Find your perfect next piece at excelsiamusic.com. That's EXCELCIA music.com. Welcome back to the Growing Band Director podcast. This is episode number 292. I'm here with Nick Pierce talking about Flex music. Nick, thanks for being here. If people have not heard it, if you go back to episode 291, we did a Flex band music episode for everybody that included music of grades 1 and 2 Flex band music. Today, we're going to deal with some grades 3 and 4, and I believe we have 7 or 8 pieces for you that are going to fit that. So, Nick, you said you've basically exclusively taught in small town, in small band programs. You know, you're in Colorado right now. So, what are some of the challenges and opportunities when we're dealing with Flex band?
Well, as we kind of touched on before, some of the challenges include that it's like one of the opportunities is that it's only going to be 4, 5, 6, 7 parts usually. So it's much easier to play some of this great music with a smaller group. So if you're in a rural area or maybe an area that's still kind of in a rebuilding phase, you have a lot more opportunities. One of the challenges is that since there's only those 5, 6, 7 parts, there's fewer places for players who are still growing, still developing to hide. So where a kid might be on a third trumpet or a third clarinet part with the standard orchestration, now there's much fewer opportunities, much fewer places for them to hide in the texture, and they're going to be a bit more exposed, which is an opportunity in its own way as well, because then these kids have to grow. They can't hide. They can't stagnate. It's on, oh, I've been a third clarinet player for my entire high school career, and now they kind of have to rise to the occasion a bit more.
That mindset is a real thing. I remember my beginning band director, John Furman, one of the best teachers I've ever been around. He told us this story when I was in high school that I just laugh about. And he said, one day in the Portland Press Herald, which is like our local newspaper, right? And he said, we saw for sale a third B flat clarinet, $100.
Mhm.
And whether or not that was just the parent writing it down or not, but this was like this person thought the name of the clarinet was a third B flat clarinet because that's what they had seen. So this
Mhm.
ability to move kids around is obviously a great thing as well. There's also the distinction between, we talked about this on the last one too, finding not flex band music that fits your group versus going to flex band arrangements. And now sometimes they're exactly the same piece, just rescored a
Mhm.
little bit to make it easier for you. Sometimes, you're getting a different experience with flex band. You said it's not always easier. That's for sure. In some ways, it's harder.
Yep.
But just because you maybe don't have your ideal instrumentation, I don't want people to only look at flex band. I think it's important they also are aware of the pieces that their band could potentially do that are not within the flex.
Mhm.
However, the flex band music is a huge resource for us.
Yep. Absolutely. And especially when you see like these days, like there's a teacher shortage, lots of teachers get burnt out. If flex band music can take one thing off a teacher who's feeling like they're struggling to keep their head above water, if it can take just that little bit of rewriting off a teacher's plate so they're more likely to keep doing this, I think that's a great thing too.
Love that. All right, let's dive into our program. This is a grade 3 program. You have this sort of, if you were to do 3 pieces that are all grade 3, give or take, and they fit into a 3-piece program. This is the order we would do this in. Here's the Robert Longfield version of the Clare Grundman Classic, Kentucky 1800. I love the piece so much.
Mhm.
Tell us about your experience with it.
Yeah. Did this one with my group at my last job, actually, just last spring or this past spring. Um, great arrangements. First time I heard it actually was at a reading session at the Midwest Clinic about quite a few, 9 years ago now, something like that. That was included in a reading session, and it might have been the first time I heard a flex arrangement that wasn't a pops arrangement.
Hmm.
Actually, back then, a lot of the flex arrangements I was finding were like music from The Incredibles. There's a great flex arrangement of John Williams themes called Great Movie Adventures. But this is the first time I heard like serious literature being being adapted for flex band. That doesn't mean it didn't exist. It's just the first time I'd seen it. But it's written very well to be playable with a smaller group. I want to say it's the standard 5 parts brass quintet ish scoring. But that means like so you have trumpets doubling some like the flute solos at the beginning of the piece. All of your tenor voice brass, like your trombones, your euphoniums, tenor sax, are all on that melody and kind of like the faster section later on. Yeah, a lot of great opportunities. And if you just listen to it, I think unless you know the piece well, you wouldn't be able to tell it's the flex version. It is that well scored.
I'll also encourage people, first of all, that you can continue to adapt the piece once you get it. And say you have flutes and trumpets on the same thing, but it's a flute solo, but you have strong flute players. Like, doesn't mean you can't say trumpets don't play here. You continue to adapt it for your group as needed. Also, Grundmann is one of those obviously older composers that a lot of people are not able to play anymore. A lot of people are not playing. I think people should consider continuing to use Grundmann's music. It's amazing, and this piece is one of the most successful and accessible that he has. And the fact that it's available in this format is great too. So let's check it out. Here's Kentucky 1800, Claire Grundmann, arranged by Robert Longfield. Today's episode is sponsored by the Thumb Gummy, a simple but powerful teaching aid designed for band students and their teachers. If you've ever taught beginners or even students a few years in who still struggle with their hand position, you know how much time can be lost with the same reminders over and over again. Thumb Gummy was created to fix that problem. It gives students a gentle guide for where their hands should go so they play more comfortably and with better technique. That means fewer bad habits, less frustration, and more progress in every rehearsal. Teachers tell us they spend less time correcting posture and more time actually teaching music. And students gain confidence because their instrument feels easier to play. Thumb Gummy is trusted by educators across the country, and it's available for trumpet, trombone, clarinet, and more. To learn more or find a local music store that carries it, visit thumbgummy.com. My good friend Trent Austin started Austin Custom Brass so many years ago. You can call him at 816 410-0826. They ship all over the world. They have a shop in Kansas City, Missouri, and they really are an amazing sponsor of this podcast. They do trumpets, trombones, euphoniums, tubas, mouthpieces, and more, all the way from the beginner to the professional. Austin Custom Brass has worked with thousands of brass players from around the world. And you can check them out on www.austincustombrass.biz. I think you had some thoughts about that final piece.
Yep. I'm glad you mentioned that you can take people out of different sections in different places to kind of get a little closer to the original scoring. This piece and a couple of the others we've listened to, if you listen to the last episode, Salvation is Created does the same thing. We'll have notations in the score saying woodwinds only these measures if possible. So if let's say you do have a flute, a clarinet, and a trumpet on part, you can have the trumpet player step out for a moment so that it's just like a woodwind solely for a little bit, and then the trumpet can come back in later. There'll be notations for that sort of optional scoring throughout if you want, if you're able to do that. Flip side of that is if you are missing those let's say you're in a band that doesn't have woodwinds for whatever reason, or they're sick that day, you have that trumpet player now who's able to step in. And actually, there's a quick story. At festival last year, we had our flute player was not able to go on to our festival trip, and one of the pieces we were doing was the flex version of our Kingsland Spring by Samuel Hazo, I think, that one. And we were like, oh, no flute player. What are we going to do? And he's like, oh wait, it's the flex version. The trumpet player has that part as well, so we did perfectly fine.
Love it. The ballad we're going to get to is grade 2.5 by Yogodo called Elegy. Have you done this piece with your group before?
I have wanted to for a while and never quite felt like the right time to do it. This piece is not an adaptation of a full band piece for Flex. It is originally and still only available as a Flex band piece. So if you like it and you listen to it and you want to do it, it's the Flex band's the only version you can. It is a gorgeous, breathtaking piece that I highly recommend everybody take a listen to. It is very light on the percussion writings, which is one reason I haven't done it. And there's this gorgeous, gorgeous piece. Highly recommend it for anyone. And if you look on the publisher, Bravo Music's, their YouTube channels, they have 2 videos of it on YouTube. One is their small band version where they have, I think, 3, maybe 4 kids on each part. And then they have a large band video of like a full-sized wind band of 50 or 60 kids still doing the exact same piece, exact same arrangement.
I like how you mentioned it hasn't been the right time yet, right? Or however you said it. Like there's so many pieces that we all want to do. And I think some people, especially the younger teachers, when I was younger, I would tend to force it. It's like, nope, we're going to do it because I want to do it. Well, there's so much great music out there trying to find having this piece that you're like, you know what, I want to do this, but it's not the right time yet. I'm going to find the right time. I think that's wise to see the bigger picture rather than just, I really like this piece, so let's do it.
Yeah.
All right, let's listen to it. Here's Elegy Yogodo. The third grade three that we're going to include, we actually have two more that are going to be kind of on the holiday side of things, is Rocket Ship by Kevin Day.
Mhm. Yep, this piece, very fun piece. You can't find a score and sound of this Flex version, so the recording will be the fully scored version. Um, this piece is a little harder on the grade three side. It's more of a 3.5, but some advice I got when I was student teaching was when your program is to Goldilocks it. Pick one piece that's a little too easy, one piece that's a little too hard or a stretch piece, and then one piece that's just right. So the way I'm kind of thinking of it is that this one's a little harder than a three, but this set of music kind of averages out to being three.
Yep.
So that's kind of my approach. Um, yeah, Rocket Ship itself scored for 4 wind parts plus percussion, but there is a little bit of a cheat to it where parts 1 and 2 both have DVCs in them, and that gave us a little bit of a fun opportunity. So most of the time when I'm like doing part assignments for flex pieces, I usually default to having each part split evenly or as evenly as I can between brass and woodwinds. So if there's maybe I have a couple flutes, a couple clarinets, and a couple trumpets on part one, and then a couple clarinets and a couple trumpets and an alto sax on part two, saxes and horns on part three, etc. But then when looking over the score, I realized that wasn't quite going to work. So what I ended up doing was I had wound up having 2 on each part for this one, and what I wound up doing was having just flutes and clarinets on part one, and then just trumpets on part two. And there's a section at the center of the piece, or right around the midpoint, where there's descending eighth notes that go back and in the flex version go back and forth between part one and part two each measure. So like bup, 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 bup. And in both parts, they're written in parallel thirds. So because we had flute and clarinet on part one and then trumpets on part two, it was a contrasting color during the same part in the same line. And it created a really neat orchestrational effect that isn't even in the original version because it's written for like flute one, clarinet one in one measure, and then flute two, clarinet two in the next measure, or something like that. So we got a completely different color and a completely different effect that was still honored the integrity of the music, but was different from than if we'd done the quote unquote real version. So it was a great creative opportunity for us to do that.
All right, let's check it out. Here's Kevin Day's Rocket Ship. Okay, so the next grade three we're going to do is a holiday piece called Still, Still, Still. This is the arrangement by Ed Huckabee. I'll also say the Randall Standard arrangement is a grade two, and that's a great one as well. But today we're listening to the Ed Huckabee arrangement.
Yep. So this one, Ed Huckabee did 2 arrangements of this one. He did his full band scoring and he did his flex band scoring. So 5 parts plus percussion. And both parts also come with optional choral parts. So you can do it either with a vocal soloist singing the melody the whole line, or a small choir doing either SA or SAB voicing along with it. Now, very often, if you are a rural director, you are the rural band director and the rural choir director at the same school. So this is a great opportunity for you as both a band and a choir director, if that's your situation, to do all of your kids on stage at once in a piece that you prepared. And if the piece still works great without choir as well, there's always an instrument doubling all of the parts.
Beautiful. Here's Ed Huckabee's Still, Still, Still. And the next piece we're going to listen to is also grade three. It's the last grade three on here. Well, sort of. This is a holiday version called Saints Hallelujah from the Canadian Brass. Arranged as Michael Brown as well.
Yep. Yeah. So if you're a brass player, you know this Canadian Brass, and one of their older holiday pieces from, like, I want to say they did this one in the 90s, was called Saints Hallelujah. And it is a like, Dixieland second line style mashup of When the Saints Go Marching In and the Hallelujah chorus. And we kind of touched on how you don't necessarily have to be a small band to, or have a small bands to do these flex arrangements. Kyle, just from listening to you on the podcast, and you're as a trumpet player and as someone who really likes different jazz styles, I kind of have a hunch you're really going to like this one, and I'm curious to see if you end up programming this one, because this one is a great like holiday concert closer.
Mm-hmm.
I did not do this one with my school band last year, but the last time I was in, I did start a community band, and we closed a concert with this one. It was, well, we did a sleigh ride encore, but besides that, we closed the concert with this one. It was very successful and very, very fun piece of music.
One of the things that I choose to do that limits me a little bit in my holiday programming is we have a wind ensemble and a concert band that are two different levels that never play together except for on the holiday concert. We make it like a community thing of the full band. So I have to choose 3 to 4 pieces that all of my kids can access, right? Which is a different thing than when you're dealing with the separate group. So part of that is having 17 percussionists in a band. Part of that is having freshmen and seniors together. So sometimes there's a lot of holiday pieces, and I don't know if this is one of them that like I really would love to do if it was just my wind ensemble or just my concert band, but because I combine them, sometimes I haven't. So let's check it out. I'm looking forward to hearing it. Here's Saints Hallelujah. All right, so we have three pieces left. This is basically a grade four festival program, if you will. The first piece is called Snow of an Anyu Village by Hirokazu Fukushima. This is a grade
Yep.
four, which I believe we featured this piece back in episode, was it 213 or 214? Whichever one of those was about the Japanese band music. If people haven't heard that, they should go back and check it out as well. Tell us
Yep.
about this piece.
Yep. So this piece, depending on, you know, like, as with all the grading systems, it's always a little bit of a debatable. People always debate whether something goes to 3.5 or is it 4, is it
Or in,
whatever.
or in Texas, it's a two.
Yeah, right, right. But this one is kind of right on that line between like a 3.5 and a 4, I would say. When I was doing my master's in 2020, we did this piece because we had all the restrictions of how many people could be in a room, and they had to be so far apart and all those things. So we did this piece, and it wound up being a good fit. It's a really, really cool piece. It sounds very, very mysterious at the beginning, and then gets more intense. It's kind of that classical overture form, like the slow lyrical opening, and then the faster the section later. Lots of mixed meter, and like doing some like 3/8 time signatures, 6/8 versus 3/4, things like that. Uh, Fun percussion parts, but not many. Um, you need it's written for 9 parts, so 7 parts, 7 winds, 2 percussion, and then there's 2 optional wind parts that you can choose to include or not, depending on your situation, what your instrumentation is.
Beautiful. Yeah, it's hard to remember sometimes that the flex music can be like you can have a small program with kids who can really play, right? So
Mm.
that's
Oh yeah,
that's that's a little bit trickier. You're not looking for grade one or two. We're looking for some challenging music here. So,
yeah.
um,
Glad you brought that up. So many people like I on like the band director Facebook pages and whatnot, I just regularly see people saying, "Oh, I have these kids who can play all 6 of them." So I need music for like more challenging music, higher level music they can still be successful in, even if there isn't like a full 4 horn part. So 4 horn players, 3 trombones, etc. So these harder pieces of these grade 4 programs are out there. There is even some flex music written at the grade 5 level. I'd say look at Julie Giroux, Bruce Broughton, and C. Allen Publications has a few, but I personally haven't done mutants, so we're sticking here.
all right, here is Snow of an Anu Village. The ballad we have on here is Eric Whitacre's Seal Lullaby, which I know a lot of people probably know. And
Mhm.
if you do know it, or even if you don't know it, check out the story in the show note, not the show notes, the program notes that Eric Whitacre writes there. I every time I do this piece, I share those with the kids about the Disney film or the Pixar film or whatever, and how I got replaced
Mhm.
by Kung Fu Panda and all this. So like
Yeah.
it's kind of a funny story.
Oh yeah. Yep. Yep. Not as much. This one, lots of people know the piece, so I won't say too much more about it. I have not done this one. I almost did it on the same concert I did Rocket Ship earlier, because the band did have a piano player at that time, but I forget why I chose not to. But regardless, great piece. Six wind parts for this one, if I remember correctly. And then since it is based on a choir work, just those six wind parts plus plus the piano parts, and you're good to go.
Beautiful. Let's check it out. Here's Seal Lullaby, Eric Whitacre. Nick, before we get to our last grade four piece, and again, thank you for doing both these episodes, 291 and 292. Um, Tell us a little bit about a composer that maybe has been being used for FlexBand here recently, an older composer that a lot of people do not do their music anymore.
Yeah. Well, I would say a composer that does not get enough love these days is definitely Cloud T. Smith, one of the classic band composers. I first encountered his music when I was in high school, and all state bands with Colonel Gabriel did the festival variations. But then I've since found that Smith also has a bunch of grade two, grade three music for band that's also fantastic. Declaration Overture is one of my favorites. Bulgarian Folk Dance is great, and Castlebrook Overture is
Hmm.
another one of my favorites of his. And many of his pieces, as of the last 2 years, have been adapted for FlexBand. So if you're looking for that classic band sound from that along the same lines as the Grundmans and the Ericsons, Smith's music is great, and we did my band's did his Declaration Overture, um, arranged for flex bands at the end of last school year. So great, great writing, and now available for FlexBand as well.
Love it. People should do that for sure, and I'll check them out. Last piece we're going to do is a grade 4 Frank Kelly piece called Vesuvius.
Mm-hmm.
I think this might even be a hard 4. This
Oh
is
yeah,
one of those pieces that, man, if anybody loses it for 2 measures, you're done. You know, you're
yeah.
this is a roller coaster ride for sure.
Yep. I have not had a chance to do this one, but the video we have, or the recording we have, is of the FlexBand version specifically. And if you know the piece well and you listen closely, you can tell where it's like, oh yeah, that part's not in the trombones in the original version, or that part is in just the woodwinds, and now there's trumpets playing it too. So if you listen closely, you can hear it. So yeah, the publisher's grading for it is a 4. I haven't done it myself, so I don't know for sure that I can argue with that. But I can't speak to whether I agree or not. But I'm sure if you know Vesuvius, you know the piece, and now available for FlexBand. So again, if you have those high school kids who's like, oh yeah, but my band is small but mighty, and they are ready to pursue this higher level literature, even if there's only 10 or 12 of them. This might be something that would fit that need for you.
I love that. We had in the area, we had a guest clinician come in and do one of our local honor bands. This was 15 years ago. I mean, a long time ago. And they did this piece, and rehearsal this whole time went great. They did all the things great. I mean, it was like perfectly programmed and all that. But on the concert, they had one of those moments, and he actually had to stop the band because it's one of those pieces that, like, once you don't have it, getting back in was tough. So
Mhm.
that's, I still see this piece. I still think of that. And again, with Tekeli's music, I love it. I haven't done as much of it recently because my program tends to have a lot of percussionists. And Tekeli's music, the percussion is very important, but there's not enough for 8 kids. So
Sure.
if people have solutions to that, please contact me. I would love to hear that so I can do more of Tekeli's music. Nick, thanks so much for being here. Appreciate it as always.
Yep. Thank you for having me.
Here is Vesuvius. We sincerely appreciate you taking your valuable time and listening to the Growing Band Director podcast. Your students are very lucky to have a band director like you. If you have any suggestions for episode topics or think you have an area of expertise to share on a show with us, please reach out. If you enjoyed this episode, don't forget to subscribe. And if you want to help spread the word, please give us a 5-star review and tell your band director friends to subscribe as well. We're available on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, our YouTube channel, and wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks for listening to The Growing Band Director. See you next week.